But that's essentially the thing. What I'm trying to do is obviously just balance myself out, so I'm not like... you've got a dog. You've got a dog.
It sounds more like one of those dirty phone call lines.
I wouldn't know.
I've only seen it in TVs and films and things like that.
Oh, really?
When I was 13.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you have a very large phone bill around that time?
Mate, do you know what? That's a story for another day, but I got badly told off once by my mum. I had no idea how much those things cost.
Well, your name is Paul, isn't it? So you don't see... Now, when I got told off...
right.
When you get told off for running out a phone bill, your full names get used.
Well,
Jonathan Michael Brown.
No, I got the middle name. I got the Paul Michael Marsh. Yeah, I got the middle name.
And on that note, that would be our names. And this is the second episode of We're Gonna Need a Bigger Pod with myself, Jon Brown.
And I'm Paul Marsh. Thank you very much for tuning in to us again. If you want to find us on social media, which is the place where everyone heads to, of course.
Yes.
We together are at Need a Bigger Pod across all social media. I'm at Paul Swampy Marsh, and we have Mr. at Jon Brown TV, Jon.
That's correct. Jon Brown TV. At Jon Brown TV, at Paul Swampy Marsh, across all socials, and at Need a Bigger Pod. Thank you very, very much to those of you that have liked, subscribed, followed already. Really, really appreciate your support. And thank you very, very much for your lovely comments on last week's first bumper episode. We hope to live up to last week's episode. We hope to be better than last week's episode.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, we don't hope to live up to it. We hope to get better.
We hope to raise the bar.
Week. Yeah.
But thank you very much for your wonderful comments. One or two of those we'll read out towards the end of the show, I think. But what is on the show, Paul?
So coming up on the show today, we have got all of our news pieces, and there is lots to talk about in the news, of course. We've got some new trailers, including Tetris and John Wick 4.
Oh, it's in there now.
We're going to be looking ahead at what's on at the cinema, including Cocaine Bear. We're going to be talking about what we have seen. We've seen some great, great films. And, of course, we will be looking at streaming and digital. And then we do have a very, very big interview coming up a little bit later.
We do. I'm just laughing at Cocaine Bear. Well, not laughing at it, laughing with it, because that's a film that's been made with its tongue firmly in its cheek, although based on a true story. We'll get to that in a bit. But I was laughing because I just realised on the podcast we can call it Cocaine Bear, but when we're on the radio, we've had to kind of play around because we're not really allowed to say the word cocaine on daytime family radio. So I was playing around some ideas, and I think the best one we've come up with so far is Sniffy Bear.
I was just about it's the bear, isn't it?
It makes it sound like a most appealing children's bedtime story when it definitely is not.
Definitely not that.
We'll come back around to Cocaine Bear in a short while.
And of course, after the interview, we are going to have our tip top 5, which last week was John Cusack. That got a good reaction, so we're going to have somebody new this week.
Yes.
And then we will finish on our nice positive one, which is our GOAT of the week.
Our GOAT of the week. In other news, but before we get to news, I need to just come back around to the special guest. It is, of course, the amazing Chanda Dancy, the composer of Whitney, the new Whitney movie, I Want to Dance with Somebody, but also she composed an
Did you just say I want to dance?
Yeah.
You're not Northern.
You're not American.
What's that got to do with anything? We're posh Southerners. It's
you
dance.
Are not.
It's
you
dance.
Are not. We are not posh Southerners.
Well, you are, according to TikTok. Everyone says you're the poshest bloke from Pompey.
Apparently, yeah, the most well-spoken man ever to come from Portsmouth.
Yeah,
I can give you a whole list of other people from Portsmouth that are very well-spoken, but maybe not as well-revered on TikTok. I think it's just because they don't know anybody
In
else.
all fairness, next to Katie Price, most people sound posh.
Don't be unkind.
Oh, I've never met her. I'm sure she's absolutely lovely. Right.
She's brilliant.
Yeah, let's move on to some very, very unfortunate news. At the time of recording, Tom Sizemore is still ill in hospital, very, very unwell, and he suffered a brain aneurysm. So we do want to send our best wishes to Tom Sizemore because he's a phenomenal actor that has been in some absolutely amazing films.
Yes. To put a more positive, I want to kind of put a more positive spin on this because although, yes, he is very, very poorly, at the time of recording and time of release, Tom Sizemore was critically ill and terribly, terribly sad. We are thinking about him and his family and his friends, of course, sending all our love. But to put a positive spin on that, it just reminded me of what a great performer he is, what a talented actor he is, and what a terrible shame it is that he is quite poorly. And I say, wishing him a speedy recovery, but it got me thinking about the great films that he's been in, even the not so great films that he's great in, and he's got a really, really good career. He's like 90s action guy, isn't he?
Oh,
or
completely. I mean, obviously Saving Private Ryan, but then True Romance and
he was in Strange Days as well.
So good. That's right. Moving on. So we got Akiva Goldsman, the writer for I Am Legend, has confirmed a sequel is being made and that the story will be set decades after the original film. Now, this is where it gets interesting.
For which film? Did you say which film?
I Am Legend. I'm pretty sure I did. It's nice to know that you're listening.
Oh.
At least, somebody's listening.
I am. Oh. Okay.
You're not a fan of this. I do. I am a big fan. I liked it. However, if you are a fan of the film, or even if you're not a fan of the film,
if I'm playing a video game, I'm a really big fan of it.
You'll possibly know that they shot 2 endings to this movie.
Yes.
The ending that we all saw, which was the theatrical cut, where, spoiler alert, Will Smith didn't make it.
I think that's fair. That movie's like 16 years old or something.
Yeah. So that was the ending that we all saw, and then there is another ending that was shot and didn't make the cut with Will Smith actually getting away, and I believe that's the original ending. Is that right?
No. So the ending where he dies is the ending that is the theatrical cut or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the kind of agreed upon released ending, was the ending where he didn't make it. So the alternate ending is the ending where he does make it. And what you're now saying is they're going to base a sequel that follows on from a deleted scene.
That maybe a few thousand people have seen. I know, absolutely crazy.
Why?
The
first one's terrible.
No, I really, really like it. But
it's awful.
Let's not get into that. But what I want to talk about is, so clearly they made these 2 endings. So as you know, they give it to test audiences and they go, right, is there a possibility that we are going to make a sequel for this? Because if there is, we want Will Smith in it and we want to leave an open ending so that if he wants to be in I Am Legend 2, he can be. And they decided, obviously, no.
No, well, I don't know. The truth is, I don't know. This is entirely my opinion and my thoughts. But my thoughts are they shot both endings because they either entirely weren't sure how it was going to go, or, like you say, it's a test audience thing. Sometimes it's a test audience decision, sometimes it's a studio decision, but for whatever reason, we've ended up with 2 endings, and the favoured ending was the more powerfully dramatic ending in that he doesn't make it. Of course, we've still got that other ending, and that comes into play when things like Blu-rays and DVDs are, you've got these special features, and that adds more value to the physical purchase, etc., etc. So I get it. What I don't get is how they literally, I mean, this feels a lot like barrel scraping. A lot like barrel scraping. So essentially, right, so let me put my professional critical head back on for a moment and there is some kindness to be had here. So I really liked the concept of I Am Legend. It was a great idea. The idea that Will Smith plays the only survivor of essentially what transpires to be a vampire apocalypse, a zombie vampire,
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I still don't know what those things are. I think they're vampires. So that, as a concept, really excited me as a big Will Smith fan and as a fan of action cinema, as a fan of horror cinema. We're basically going to have an survival action horror movie. And I was like, that's amazing. I'm really into that. And to be honest with you, for the most part, I was into it until we saw the villain.
Right, okay.
And they were basically like Xbox level CGI. And I was
so
like,
when was the film made? Let me
2007?
2007, around about then?
Round about then.
Now, see, this is the thing. Obviously, technology has come on a great deal in the last 15 years.
Yeah,
so
if you're going to ask me to be kind to it because it was in 2007, I'll present you with Terminator 2 in 1991.
Yes, I know, but Arnie's a real person. He's not CGI. Arnie's real.
Yeah,
I agree with you, and this is the thing with any film that it has CGI as a main plot point.
I just
it's
couldn't
how
buy
good
into
how
it.
good is this? What I love about that film is I love Will Smith. I think Will Smith is phenomenal in that film, and the fact that you see him losing it, and obviously the dog is his best friend, and all of that. I think that's
all that stuff, the stuff with the dog,
fantastic. Yeah, really, really good.
absolutely heartbreaking,
Yeah.
and the balance between I'm cautious of time because this turned into an I Am Legend deep dive, but the relationship he has with his dog and the relationship he essentially ends up having with himself. He's incredibly lonely. You know, he's setting up dummies and kind of
in the video
mannequins
shop,
in video shops and
Yeah.
stuff. So because he's starting to slowly lose it because he's on his own and all that stuff, and then finding a family and everything.
Fred!
Yeah.
Fred! What are you doing here, Fred?
Which I kind of just think is a riff on Phil from Beverly Hills Cop in the bar. But anyway, so I think if it's a hat tip to that, then fair enough. But all that stuff was great. And then it completely lost its way when I started seeing what it was that was hunting everybody, that forced the end of the human, the viral, the result of the viral outbreak that caused the end of the human race as we know it, except for him. Bearing in mind, now we've got Last of Us, which is essentially the same thing but done so much better.
Yeah, but
so
15 years, not 10 years.
Yeah, but don't forget,
15
Last of
years.
Us has been around for a long time as a game,
Yeah.
and it still got it better as a game. So I have to kind of look at that and go, if I was playing the I Am Legend video game right now, this is great. But it completely lost its way. As soon as I saw the creatures, be they zombie vampires, whatever they are, the infected, whatever we want to call them, I was like, oh no. And then I'm like, Will Smith is on the run from some video game sprites. And that it lost its to turn a pun, it lost its teeth after that, and I was like, okay. And then it came back. Obviously, the dog moment brought it back into play, and then it was like, oh, and then he dies, and then this, and I was like, oh no, and by the end, I just didn't care.
Right, listen, one more question before we move on to our next topic. What should they do? Should they keep the zombie vampires the same?
They shouldn't make it.
Or do
That's
they?
what they should do.
But they are. So should they keep them the same, or do they change them, improve them with the technology that we have the technology?
Practical effects are amazing.
Oh, don't even get me started on that, because you know that my beef is CGI and the overuse of CGI.
So there are so many great artists in the world that are still around right now that can do incredible prosthesis. Talk to these people.
Yeah.
They are incredibly talented.
Well, look at all of the zombie films throughout the ages with George Romero.
You
and
have
whatever.
the money, Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Do it.
Right, let's move on. So, very, very positive news. Zach Galifianakis.
Do you want to?
No, that's his
moment?
surname. No, that's his surname.
Zach Galifianakis.
That's exactly what I said. Is going to be joining Disney's live-action Lilo and Stitch remake.
No, this excites me.
Yes, exactly. Now, so this is the old age argument of these Disney live-action remakes, and do people want them? Do people not want them? And they come out, and everyone slags them off and says they're not as good as the original cartoons, and then they go and make $1 billion at the cinema.
Tell me you're from Portsmouth without telling me you're from Portsmouth.
What's that?
Slags it off.
Oh, right.
Slagged it right off, mate.
Disses it. They diss it.
The live action remakes. Okay, these are hit and miss. For me, personally, hand on my heart, and this is the part where a Disney sponsorship goes right out of the window. They are hit and miss. Some of them are incredible. I like Dumbo because I think Tim Burton took something that the animated Dumbo is an absolute treasure, right? From a childhood viewing perspective, it's an absolute Walt Disney classic. From minus the problems of the time, shall we say? I'm trying to find a word without saying certain words, but you know what I mean. It's problematic. The themes are problematic of the age, but we can change that. It's fine. Tim Burton comes along and takes it, and it's a good film, but it's not a very cohesive film. There's just a bunch of things that happen to Dumbo. Whereas Tim Burton takes it and turns it into a 3-act story.
A beginning, a middle, and an end.
And adds things to it to make it more cohesive as a story. And then you've got Danny DeVito in there and Colin Farrell and everything else. Great movie. So in that context, a live-action remake works really, really well. And it's probably my favourite.
However,
say, for example, something like Beauty and the Beast, it didn't quite. I mean, actually, Beauty and the Beast is probably the middle ground because it kind of worked and it kind of didn't. It kind of worked because it was like, oh, actually, it's really nice to see this in the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of didn't work because there are things about it that don't work out.
I can't comment because I haven't seen it. I did like Aladdin. I will say that.
Aladdin was great because, again, what it did was it took it didn't try to. It took the essence of the original and then Guy Ritchie added things to make
Smith
it more relevant.
Did not try to be Robin Williams,
and that was his greatest success there. He didn't.
You know,
he
let's
tried
face
to be
it,
Will Smith.
You can't do that. There was nobody that was going to be Robin Williams. Like you say, Will Smith has bags of character anyway. So the best thing he could have done was been the best character of himself.
And he did. So sometimes they hit, sometimes they miss. I'm not saying should they not do them and leave them alone. I think there is a space that can exist for the animated films in the vaults of all time. I don't think it's a terrible thing that we get some live action takes like The Little Mermaid that, you know, actually look quite exciting. So Lilo and Stitch is going to be a tricky one because, again, we're coming all the way back around to CGI.
Uh-huh.
Because obviously...
I assume it's going to be CGI.
I think so, but I think there's a way to get it right and there's a way to get it wrong. I'm looking at you, Pinocchio. So... Yeah. And how... When you take Disney's Pinocchio and you put that next to Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, del Toro's is running away with it. Literally running away with it. And the difference is stop motion.
Yes. Yeah, well, that I guess time will tell, and we will find out. And what Zach Galifianakis are we going to get? Because are we going to get the one that we love? Or are we going to get a slightly more serious version? Or, you know...
Do we know what he's doing in it?
No idea.
He may well be Stitch.
He could be.
Which would actually work.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, for the record... I feel like I'm on one today. I'm just like, that's awful, make it go away. That's awful, make it go away. No, there are things, like I said, going back to, just to recap, there are some really strong Disney live action remakes that do work really effectively. Like I say, like Dumbo. I think Lilo and Stitch is going to be one of the ones that works. I've got a good feeling about it. Jury's still out on Little Mermaid, although everything points to very promising. Like I'm feeling Little Mermaid. I think it's going to be good. That's my sense at the moment, but we never really know. Sometimes they hit, Dumbo. Sometimes they miss, Pinocchio. It's down to, we'll see. But Lilo and Stitch, I'm looking forward to.
So one final piece of news before we move on to trailers, just very quickly. Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool, starring Alexander Skarsgård and Mia Goth, has been released in the States. However, it doesn't come out until over a month later, or just under a month later, on the 24th of March in the UK.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of this lately, haven't we? I think we've been so used to films coming out literally the same day or maybe a week later. When it goes back to how it used to be, where we have a huge 6-week wait, in this day and age, it seems very, very strange.
I was looking that up, actually, because, not really, actually. It happens more often than you think. I think we're more aware of it now because we've just taken on the pod, so we kind of got our eye more on the ball about release dates and schedules and things. But to be honest with you, it's something that happens more often than you think it does, and it absolutely baffles me. I know there's reasons for it, and oftentimes it's scheduling. You know, especially with children's or family films, they tend to try and aim it towards a public holiday here, which is different to obviously the public holidays in the United States. Yeah. Sometimes though, I honestly don't know what it is. There are instances though where unfortunately the longer you leave that gap and the wider you make that gap in the schedule, the more susceptible you are to piracy. And therein lies the problem. Having universal day and dates, as we call them, where it drops the same day in every country, or as near as damn it, generally makes it a profitable venture. There we go.
Well, quite simply, more people will go out to the cinema to watch it. That's it's not rocket science, is it? It's
Case
really,
in point,
not.
Creed 3. That's coming out the same day everywhere in the world. So that will do tremendously well. Not in the least because it's part of the Rocky saga and Michael B. Jordan, who's amazing. So, yeah. But I find that true decent, honest to goodness fans will wait for something and they'll line up at the box office and they'll pay their ticket money to support their favourite genre. And horror fans especially are the horror community.
Yeah, well, this is the one area of cinema that is really going from strength to strength right now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I know his dad's got a re-release out this week, but we'll talk more about that later.
Yes, right. Moving on to trailers. Last week we went into overdrive with trailers because of the Super Bowl, and we literally reviewed 10 trailers, which was ridiculous. So we've only got a couple this week. However, they are a couple of good ones. So we've got Tetris.
Okay, you've seen this. Go for it.
So Tetris is starring Taron Egerton, and I thought, as many people did, similar to The Founder and many of these other films that we've seen recently, which is just going to be how Tetris came about.
Well, it was that or it's giant blocks falling from the sky, a disaster movie style. Either one I'm good with, to be honest.
However, I didn't know this backstory behind Tetris, and I would like to have a little bet that not many other people did.
Well,
so it starts out with quite a simple, Taron Egerton works for Nintendo, and he is looking for a game to take this new concept to the next level, and he discovers Tetris, and he says, this is it, this is the thing, and then he has to try and convince everybody else that this is the thing, and this is where they need to go, and blah, 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 blah.
It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I played for 5 minutes. I still see falling blocks in my dreams. It's poetry, art, and math all working in magical synchronicity. It's the perfect game. Tetris?
Tetris. I don't get it.
Quite plain, quite simple, good, but plain and simple.
Then the Russians get involved.
And then
I knew about that.
Oh my God.
I knew about that.
I had no idea.
It's immense. I'm amazed no one else. I think probably other people have jumped on smaller documentaries. We just haven't seen them. But I knew this story. I don't know how. I can't remember how. I maybe read it as an article somewhere. But it is mind-blowing. The story behind it is stranger than fiction.
I just thought, like I say, I thought it was going to be a nice little Michael Keaton in The Founder, a story about how the Game Boy and Nintendo and the Tetris, and I thought it was going to be a really interesting story. Apple, Steve Jobs, all of these other films, that's what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I did not expect to see a tank
in a Tetris movie.
In a film about Tetris. I just didn't see that coming.
Wasn't it the first game on the Game Boy?
Yes, it was.
Didn't it come pre-packed?
And it was more or less the reason why people bought the Game Boy.
It was a wave, wasn't it?
It wasn't until 6 months, a year later that they started developing these other games for them as well. But Tetris was the main reason why you bought that.
Yes.
So that looks absolutely great. That, I believe, is going straight to Apple TV. I believe.
It is, Apple TV Plus.
And then, so finally, John Wick 4. Now,
oh, sorry, no. Tetris is getting a limited theatrical run,
and
then it goes to Apple TV Plus. Yeah,
I'm sure it will be absolutely worth seeing on the big screen if you possibly can. I know,
it's just such a bonkers story. I'm amazed that no one's made it yet. No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to hear it because it's going to stay there. I'm not going to get it out of my head, and also I don't want to have to pay for it because you've hummed it for so long.
I'll smash your teeth in.
No, what?
That's have you not? I'm a huge Young Ones fan.
Oh yes, yeah. Sorry, I'm with you. I thought you were like, I'll smash it.
It's a scene in the Young Ones where
fisticuffs now, do you? Right now, while people are listening.
Rick Mail asks Madness to play a Cliff Richard song.
There we go.
And Suggs turns to him as he says, I'll smash your teeth in.
Yeah, it's basically that. Yeah, anyone that wants to... I mean, they can't see us, so they can't lay bets on who's going to win the fisticuffs. So should we move on to...
Put him up.
Speaking of fisticuffs, John Wick 4.
Yes, John Wick 4. Now, right, I have a feeling that I'm going to offend you with what I'm going to say now.
Probably.
I put John Wick 4 in the same category as Mission Impossible and Fast and Furious. I have seen all 3 John Wick films. I have seen all 3 at the cinema. I've absolutely loved all 3 of them, the same as I've seen all the Mission Impossibles and Fast and Furious at the cinema. I thought they were all fantastic, thoroughly enjoyed them, never seen them again.
I would take Mission Impossible out of that equation.
I've never watched... What are we on now? 9? 8 with Mission Impossible?
6.
We're
on 7.
Okay.
We're about to have 7 and 8.
Okay, see, I get confused with Fast and Furious, but... all of these big action blockbuster popcorn sequels, I watched them at the cinema. I did with John Wick 3. I thought absolutely brilliant, phenomenal, loved it, and then I'll never watch it ever again.
I don't know how many times I've seen Fallout because I watched several scenes of it over and over again.
What one's Fallout? Is that
the last one?
Yeah, but is that the one in Dubai where he clings onto the...
No,
that's the one that I like.
Okay, the Fallout is the most recent one, which I think is by far and away the best one. But it's also the one I've seen technically many, many times because I've seen many, many scenes of it over and over while it was being made. So that's probably the one I've seen. No, actually, the first one's probably the one I've seen. Anyway, point being, I wouldn't put Mission Impossible in that bracket because I think Mission Impossible is by far and away one of, if not the best action franchises ever.
I would not disagree with you. I would sit and watch it, no doubt.
I think with John Wick 4, though, I think it's more along the line... I actually put John Wick in the same kind of bracket as a lot of some of my favourite Japanese film noir, martial arts cinema, action cinema, Japanese action cinema. Of course, because it takes a lot of its cues from that. It's very much no homage to that. And I think that's probably paying it a great compliment. But I do like the John Wick series because they are fully aware of what they are and they lean into it.
Yeah.
And anything that's not trying to pretend to be anything other than it is gets a star in my book because it's like John Wick is bonkers by design.
Now, the best thing for me about the John Wick films are not the films in itself. They are watching Keanu Reeves training for the films, which I think is next level phenomenal.
Yeah, he can handle himself.
Oh, it's amazing.
I saw a meme somewhere which was really cruel and unkind that said something along the lines of, guys, don't buy into the Keanu Reeves thing because if he was caught in a dark alley, he'd poo himself and run away or something. Or
no,
and
absolutely
I was like,
not.
this person clearly has not watched any of his training.
Nope,
that man is like
he can handle himself,
like weapon level dangerous.
Why have we not seen?
But not because obviously he's a very, very chilled out, very kind, very generous dude.
Why have we not seen Keanu Reeves opposite Tom Cruise fighting each other in some sort of action film? Because that needs to happen.
He'd probably love that.
That would be awesome.
I think Tom would probably love that. However, I think he'd make a great addition to the Mission Impossible universe.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
but I'd make a great addition to the Fast and Furious universe as John Wick, just to put a spin on that. That'd be even better.
Sorry, going back to the actual trailer, the two things that really stood out for me, and I text you about this one. We've spoken recently about them taking older 80s and 90s songs and making these big, powerful orchestral
that happens
versions.
a lot right now. Some better than others.
And they use Nas' Got Yourself a Gun, and wow. That is good.
Yeah, well,
that's
really
good.
And the choreography and the timing of the editing to the trailer as well is always spot on. With all John Wick films, to be fair.
This hit goes out to you, Mr. Wick.
Woke up this morning.
42 regular, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so it begins.
Yeah. I'm living in this time behind enemy lines, so I got mine. I hope you
challenge you to single combat.
If you win, you'll have your freedom.
And when I see you, I'ma take what I want, so.
Amen.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, we've got a huge cast, always a huge cast. They always add, every movie they're adding someone phenomenal. We've got Skarsgård in this as well, Bill Skarsgård, who is essentially the villain in this one.
I have to say, I'll be honest, I was waiting for Bill Skarsgård to be typecast after becoming Pennywise, and I wasn't sure if he was going to be doing more things.
He's a Skarsgård.
I know. Right,
my favourite talented family.
Yeah, very. Let's move on to what's coming out this week. Let's just mention very quickly. Let's do it the wrong way round. Let's say
Tetris. Sorry, just to go back. Tetris is this month, isn't it? Isn't it dropping this month? Is it March?
Next month. I think
it's coming April.
I think it's March.
It's March. No, I said is it this month in March?
It's February.
It's February now, isn't it? Hey!
And there we go.
I'm a time traveller. I live in the future.
Somebody get John a coffee.
Tetris is coming in March. John Wick 4 is coming March 24th. And we will have someone from John Wick 4 behind the scenes of John Wick 4. We will have someone from John Wick 4 on a future pod. So there we go.
So yeah, I want to go the wrong way round when we look ahead at what's in the cinema this week. I want to go with What's Love Got to Do With It first, because I think we're going to really have a lot of fun with Cocaine Bear. So What's Love Got to Do With It?
So to be clear, if anyone was expecting reviews, we'll be absolutely transparent with you about this. What's Love Got to Do With It and Cocaine Bear weren't available to screen at time of going to press. What we will say to you is this. We'll talk about them briefly now. We will give you a very, very detailed review next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Of both those films. I think the Cocaine Bear review is going to be a lot longer than the What's Love Got to Do With It. Because What's Love Got to Do With It just looks a very sweet, charming film.
Yeah.
With Cocaine Bear, there's probably going to be a lot to say. But we will review both those films for you in depth, we promise, on next week's episode 3. In the meanwhile, though, Paul has a brief preview for you coming to cinemas this Friday.
What's Love Got to Do With It?
Yeah, you can start with that.
Yeah, so featuring Lily James, who I really,
She's so amazing.
Yeah, I really, really like her. And from what I can tell, she is falling in love with an Indian fella who is obviously a very traditional Indian marriage set up for him, and they fall in love, and that puts a spanner in the works. It features Emma Thompson as well, who is, as we know, fantastic in everything she does. And so between Lily James and Emma Thompson, they integrate themselves into this Indian family, and they fully, with open arms, accept them, their ways, their traditions, and their cultures.
Yes, that's right. So they're Emma Thompson's neighbours, and I think how that, again, we haven't seen it, but I think how that relationship begins is that her daughter, played by Lily James, and the son of the family next door, obviously are the bestest of friends, and this is where it gives me really big My Best Friend's Wedding vibes, because obviously the kind of trick to it is that she is drastically falling in love with him, and has been in love with him, I guess, for a time, but he is being pushed into his traditional arranged marriages and everything else, which, you know, in the trailer he's quite happy sort of with the process, and his new wife seems quite lovely and everything, but of course there's a hidden connection there.
I'm getting married.
You are? Who's the lucky lady?
Don't know yet.
What do you mean?
I'm getting an arranged marriage. Well, assisted marriage. That's what we call it these days.
Dare I ask, what about love?
You grow to love the person you're with.
What, like Stockholm Syndrome?
So, your ideas for your next film?
I could follow my childhood friend to marry a stranger chosen by his parents.
My big fat arranged wedding.
Meet the parents first.
Love contractually.
Huh.
If Lily James was in love with me, and my family was pushing me to marry somebody else, I would not be happy. I would not be happy.
So yeah, I like this marriage of styles as well. I like the idea. It's a story we have seen before. I mean, even right down to the traditional wedding and arranged marriages from different cultures. Different cultures have different approaches to partners and things, and that's all based around religion and things like that. But we have seen this story before in the Indian community and done very well. We've seen My Best Friend's Wedding before as well. The twist on this is that it's made by Working Title, which is Tim Bevan and Eric Fellner, and they make things like Bridget Jones and Love Actually.
Yes.
And so this is their wheelhouse.
Yes.
They do this better than anybody else in British romantic comedy. So I'm expecting very big things from it. I love the cast. I love everyone in it. So yes, that's called What's Love Got to Do With It. It's got a 12A certificate. It is coming to cinemas on Friday. It's directed by Shekhar Kapoor and also stars, as we say, Lily James, Shazad Latif and Emma Thompson, among many, many others. I am very, very much looking forward to that. That's on this Friday's agenda. So we'll come back to you on that once we've seen it, and we will tell you more next week.
Now, something we are both very much looking forward to is Cocaine Bear. Now, I want to start with saying that a good friend of mine, Stu, sent me a message last night. He said to me, they mentioned that it's a true story. That can't be right. And I was like,
It is.
It is. Unbelievably, as much as this is a B-movie plotline, this is dreamt up in some producer's house somewhere in Hollywood. No, this is 100% a true story. Only in America, right?
I've always wanted to see a bear in real life.
First humpbacks in Iceland, and now this.
We have such good luck in nature. Huh? What'd you see?
It's demented or something.
What? Can I get the camera?
Yeah.
Give me the camera.
Demented?
I
think we should leave it. It's something wrong with it. Come on. Shh, come on.
So cute.
Oh no. I just thought of something I can never say out loud. It was someone else said, is it a certain person's biography? I can't say the name because legal will absolutely decimate us. So anyway, Cocaine Bear is based on, or certainly inspired by, a true story. I'm not quite sure which one of those two things it is, but I'm sure that will become apparent when we see it.
I'm sure that there is a fair bit of creative license in there. But the great thing is, what I'm looking forward to this is much similar to what we saw with Megan recently, which was just a brilliant, rip-roaring, enjoyable film. I'm expecting to see a really good B movie. It's got Ray Liotta in it, and this must be, I assume,
I think it is
the
his
final
last,
Ray Liotta film.
Last time we see him,
and loads of other great actors, and they're probably only in about 3 scenes each. And you go, oh, that's so and so, and oh, that's so and so, and they're going to get eaten by a bear, I assume.
We don't know this, by the way.
No, we've got absolutely no idea.
There wasn't a screening available to us at the time of going to press, so we have no idea. We will give you more context when we see it. All we know that is it's got a great cast. It's directed by Elizabeth Banks.
Oh, yeah,
It's obviously got a 15 certificate, although I'm surprised it's shaved an 18,
All I'm going to say is Cocaine would have made The Revenant a very different film.
Can you imagine The Revenant with Sniffy
Take
Bear?
Take Cocaine Bear, take The Revenant, and put your hands together and smash them together. Then you get a film.
Oh my God. The Cocaine Revenant. Sniffy Bear. Sniffy Bear.
But I think this is going to be a film that you grab your popcorn, you grab your Coke and your Coca-Cola, I should say. You grab your Coca-Cola or Pepsi.
Available at the reception.
Are you okay?
That's how you save cinema.
Yeah, never mind Top Gun. Never mind Top Gun saving cinema. Give animals lots of drugs.
No, don't give.
If we're just giving animals lots of drugs, do we go into the Nope kind of?
What's Top Gun Maverick got to do with cocaine in the cinema? Can you imagine that?
So Cocaine Bear is out from Universal.
That's what it does to you, Paul. That's what it does to you.
Exactly. That's why you don't touch it. But John's bad enough as he is without that. He doesn't need that. Right, Cocaine Bear is out this Friday. It's a 15 certificate, and it is out on Universal. Right, let's move ahead.
Whoa. It's out via Universal Pictures.
Yes.
But it is in cinemas from Friday. Also, since we are giving big ups and hat tips to our friends at Studio Canal will be releasing What's Love Got to Do With It in cinemas on Friday. If you want something lovely and sweet and uplifting, I'm going to go with What's Love Got to Do With It. I guess that's the direction we're going in for that. If you want something that's just absolutely off its literal... Cocaine Bear's the way forward.
I will say, don't get those two films mixed up, because you'll get a very different movie. Right, so we're going to talk about a couple of films that I've seen.
I do have one. Sorry, I do have two more things to say about Cocaine Bear. Number one is that Sean Wilson did message me. Hello, Sean. Sean, you will know soon because he's going to be on our other podcast. He's going to be co-hosting Scoreheads with me, which is our upcoming podcast. It's part of We're Going to Be a Bigger Pod, but it's our music division. So it'll be all about composers and soundtracks and talking with the people behind the music of the films that you love and things like that. So, number one, Sean is going to be hosting an episode with me very soon, which will be with Mark Mothersbaugh, the composer of Cocaine Bear. So we'll talk more about that there. But also, Sean did send me a message to say he's already pitched the sequel to Universal. He said, how does Gak Yak sound? Thank you, Sean. Okay, go on.
Just lowering the tone. Well, no, that's absolutely not lowering the tone at all.
I think we've made an...
It's low.
I think
the bar is already very, very low.
Have we made it to an E on podcast yet? Or do we just need an E?
I think
we don't need an E.
No. Oh, my God. Right, so we're going to talk about a couple of films. I'm going to let you decide what I talk about first because I've seen Joyland and Broker.
I know you have, so you've been really... So there are, I guess that would bring us to what, 4 big movies out this week. Sorry, 4 films are out this week. 2 of them are getting massively wide releases, and those are the 2 that we just highlighted. We will review those in more depth next week. However, thanks to Paul Marsh, we have had a closer look at the 2 more independent international films, foreign language films that have been released. Let's start with Joyland. Thank you very much to Studio Soho and our friends at DDA for hooking us up, making sure we had this in time for the podcast. Let's start with that because that's getting some rave reviews. Tell me all about it.
So Joyland is a Pakistani film. I've done a little bit of sort of... I try to go into these films knowing as little as possible, and then once I've seen it, I'll go and look at it a little bit more. This is breaking boundaries out in Pakistan, and I feel really awkward sort of talking about this film, similar to when I spoke about The Inspection last week, which is a very personal film to somebody.
The director,
who literally wrote and directed it. This film is has never this type of film has never ever been made in Pakistan before.
If it's what I think it's about, then I understand, yeah.
So it's about a son in a traditional Pakistani family who has been unemployed for quite a few years now, and he gets a job opportunity to go and work as a backup dancer in a Bollywood-style burlesque, and then he becomes infatuated with the lead singer, who is a trans woman.
ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਇੱਜ਼ਤ ਸਾਡੀ ਇੱਜ਼ਤ ਹੈ ਅੱਲਾਹ ਦਾ ਸ਼ੁਕਰ ਹੈ ਮੈਂ ਵੇਖਿਆ ਕੋਈ ਅਣਜਾਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਹਰਬਾਨੀ ਫਿਆਜੀ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ.
Okay.
So this is breaking a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say
a lot of boundaries.
Fantastic setup for a film set in Pakistan. That's a huge premise.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a reason for this, but it's also in 4:3 ratio, which I'm not entirely...
Well, that may entirely be a filmmaker decision.
Yeah, I don't know why, but it added to it.
I don't mind that sometimes, because it gives that kind of more documentary feel. Or was it set in the past?
No, not at all.
Because sometimes that happens.
I don't believe it was. I don't really know, to be completely honest with you. But so you have the father. So in this one house is the father, who is a grandfather. He's 70 years old. And then you have both of his sons and their wives, and then 4 children, all living in this one house. And so when it starts, let me just check his name. Haider is the main protagonist's name. His wife, because he is not working, his wife works as where brides go and have their makeup done on the day. And
I'm guessing there's traditional arranged marriages involved.
By the time we get there, they're already married and
right. I've got you.
So we don't know about that, but I assume so. But she's working and she's really, really happy with this, and he is the stay-at-home dad kind of thing, and he helps out around the house with the kids and the chores and all of that. But as you can imagine, in this Indian family, it's not going down overly well. And then he gets this job opportunity, which he doesn't want to tell his family about because he's a little bit embarrassed about it. And by him then and it's very well paid, by the way. And then when he goes off to do this, that means his wife, who is doing a job that she absolutely loves, is told to stay at home. And she can no longer do the job she loves.
So it's already kind of playing around with gender stereotypes.
Very much so, very much so. And then he goes to become the backup dancer, and this trans woman who is the star of the show, and she's absolutely gorgeous, by the way. And first of all, he really, really struggles. He's not a dancer by trade at all. This is, he's same as us all. A few late nights, he's done a bit of dancing, but
bit of karaoke.
But he wouldn't call himself a dancer.
We're all Elton John when we've had a few beers, aren't we?
But he needs the money. And he's tired of his family looking down on him and taking the mickey out of him, and he needs the money, so he's going to put his mind to it. And slowly, over the course of the film, he starts spending more and more time with this woman than his own wife.
Right.
And he slowly starts to become infatuated with her, and then that causes more distance from his wife. And I won't go any further than that.
Yeah,
I'm going to leave it at that point. But what I will say is this is a very, very hard film for me to review and to do it justice. This is getting unbelievable reviews from
everywhere.
From everywhere, especially if you are connected to and you understand the arranged marriages and the hierarchy in a Pakistani family, which of course, being a white British male, I don't fully understand.
Yeah, of course.
So I enjoyed it. What I didn't do is I didn't connect with it.
Okay.
A lot of the characters that are in this film are they're not likable characters.
Right.
Hyder, who is the main guy in the film, he's very weak. And he's weak towards his wife, he's weak towards his father, towards his brother, even the diva, the main star of the show. He's very much her gopher boy, and he does as he's told when he's told to do it. So to have the main person in this film not be a strong character or particularly likable is quite tough.
It's lost you a little bit.
So
looking at I understand this is the debut from the director. I think it's the first time
from Saim Sadiq.
Yeah, I think I'm not entirely down to you, mate, but I think I read somewhere that's the first film. Debut film?
Maybe.
If so, and if not, how does it fare in terms of an overall?
In terms of the actual film, I thought it was shot very well, and there's some fantastic cinematography and the scenery shots of India and everything else like that. Really, really good. Shot fantastically. I can understand why it is getting rave reviews, and what I would say is, if you're into Bollywood and if you like that type of thing, I'm absolutely positive that you will love this story, and it is a heartbreaking, tough story. I just found myself personally struggling to connect with it.
Okay, well that stands up. That stands up well. There are a lot of factors in play here in terms of, like you say, massive strides forward for that community, for that part of the world.
Oh, absolutely. As I
massive stride forward
understand,
for the filmmaker.
As I understand, it's the first time a real mainstream film from Pakistan has featured a trans woman. So,
well, that's a massive
it's
positive step forward.
Breaking down doors, which is great to see.
And that's great that cinema can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
really, really good.
Well, I'm going to catch up with it, because I'd like to talk about it more on the radio away from this, or maybe we'll circle back around to it next week. I know we've got the two main ones to look at, but overall, out of 5 stars, what would you give it?
I personally would give it a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
However, I fully understand why anybody would give it a 4 or a 5. It's one of those
very
films.
Fair.
From a personal point of view, it's a 3. But if somebody said to me they loved it, I wouldn't say you're crazy.
You wouldn't debate that.
No, I would completely understand.
It's not for me, but you can see why somebody else would see it.
It's exactly the same as the Banshees of Inisherin. It's not my cup of tea. I didn't particularly like it, but anybody that says to me they do like it, I would go, fair enough. I completely
respect and understand. It's the same with Tar. You
Yes.
respect and understand its place in the landscape.
Absolutely.
In filmmaking, in terms of the arts, you didn't like it, but other people, and that's the great thing about film. There's the reason why we can have these discussions, because there are things that you hate that I'll love, and there's things that I'll hate that you love, and so on and so forth. But I think
it didn't grab me. That's all.
Okay, well, I'll take a look at it, because I'd like to sort of cast my eyes over it and see, because it sounds very interesting, and I've heard a lot of people speak very highly of it. The other film out this week, so that's called Joyland. It's got a 15 certificate. It is playing in selected cinemas. Do check your local cinema for details to see if it's playing near you. And the other film on the same thread, which is also a foreign language film, which will be playing in select cinemas. Both of these films, by the way, will be playing from Friday. The other was, of course, Broker. Tell us about that.
So Broker is a Korean film, stars Song Kang-ho from Parasite fame. So if you're a big fan of that is a draw into this film straight away. So, do you know what a baby drop box is?
I've read about this, yes.
So in certain countries and certain places, don't even know if they exist in the UK. I've got no idea whatsoever.
I doubt very much. Well, I hope not anyway.
So when a woman has had a baby and she does not want to keep that baby for whatever reason it is, there are drop boxes placed around the city that you can open. It's got a little cot, Moses basket in there. You can put your baby in there and walk away.
And so I had this vision, and it's just like You know, when you're at the garage or something,
Yeah.
or post box where you just open this big metal thing, throw a baby in it, and shut
It's
it.
more or less what it is in a bigger version.
But handled. I mean, it's awful that it's even a thing. Like, I understand. And let's not go too far down this road because I think the film will do that for us. But it's a I know that there are women that, you know, are forced to make that difficult decision, and there are many, many reasons why. But also that the fact that exists is, I don't know, is it a gift or a curse? Tell us. The movie tells us, I guess.
Well, so this is the situation. So a young girl gives it, and 9 times out of 10, the whole point is you actually close the box up properly, and once it's all done properly, this baby drop box, there are cameras and sensors and all of these other things that record what's happened, so they can actually see it, and they're notified that there's a baby in there, and obviously attached to the drop box is an orphanage or whatever word you want to use.
Okay, right, I'm with you now. So it's not just abandoning babies.
It doesn't go to the local shell garage or anything else like that. It's actually
in my throat. Then.
It's actually attached to an orphanage or of a similar ilk.
Right, gotcha.
However, when this young girl puts her baby in, she doesn't fully close it. She doesn't do something right, so that it doesn't the sensor doesn't pick up that there's a baby in there.
Right.
So basically, there's a guy who's working in this orphanage, and he notices that this baby is there. He notices that the sensor hasn't gone off and it hasn't recorded anything, so there's no knowledge of this baby being in there.
Right.
Him and another person who, like I just said, is what's the name? Song Kang Ho.
Mm-hmm.
They are in cahoots to sell babies.
Hence the title.
Human trafficking.
Right. Well, this took a turn.
Yes. And then the next step on top of that is there are 2 female police officers who are aware they are doing this and are trying to catch them in the act so they can arrest them.
아, 그 애 눈썹을 이렇게 해가지고 사진을 보내니까 그렇지. 여기 어때? 2천만 원.
시세의 2배라.
만나볼래?
누구?
건물주인 것 같은데.
몇 살인데 여자가?
36.
왜? 더 젊었으면 좋겠어?
아니 그런 건 아니고.
What this film does, that's the brief overview, by the way. What this film does is it teaches us that life isn't black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody is either good or bad.
There is a lot of grey.
There is a huge grey area in life, and that is what this film teaches us. Now, I don't want to give away too much about this film, but what I will say is there are certain, we talk about with series, when you binge watch a series and you get to the end of one episode and it doesn't matter that it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you have to put on another episode.
Yeah.
So I started watching this film yesterday afternoon and I had to do the school run in between. When I got back with the kids and they went off to do their bits and pieces, I had to put this film back on straight away because I was that much into it.
You were invested. So you watched it in 2?
Yeah, which I don't like doing. Usually I like to sit and watch a film in one sitting.
No,
but
I can't do it like that.
I put it on
in
at...
fact, I never do that.
I put it on at 2 o'clock, and at 3 o'clock I had to leave to go and get the kids, and the second I got back home at about 3:45 or whenever it was.
However, that's relevant because
I enjoyed it so much.
You couldn't wait to come back to it.
I could not wait to see the rest of it. Now, I was worried that I was going to get home and not have the energy to put it back on. However, it was the complete opposite, and I couldn't wait to get it back on because it is such a good film.
Okay, so it's got rewatch value.
Do you know what? I think it's one of those ones that you when you know like how it ends, and not that there's a twist at the end, but you see how the characters' arcs shape. I think you could potentially watch it a second time, knowing what you now know, and you would see things a little bit differently in a different light.
If I was to say to you, right, I'm going to put it on now, and you'd be like, oh, actually, we've got some time.
I would sit and watch it again. Yeah. Fantastic across the board. The young girl, I'm going to look up her name very, very quickly.
Sure thing. Just while you're doing that, this is in cinemas from Friday, select cinemas from Friday, and I believe that was from Picture House, wasn't it?
Yes, it is. So the young girl who plays Soo Young is called Ji-eun Lee, and she is just amazing. And the different... At first, when So, I won't get too into it, but basically the two guys that are trying to sell the baby, the young girl who was given the baby up comes back and she decides that she needs to see the baby again, and she now finds out that these two guys have it. So she then finds out that she is going to get a lot of money from selling this baby, so she goes along for the ride as well.
Yeah.
Her change of character throughout this film, of being a frightened little girl to a loving mother who is now have a choice of bonding with her baby, with her son, and do I still go through with this? Do I not go through with this? Do I report these guys to the police? Do I not report these guys to the police? All of that she goes through is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Stunning.
The two female police officers, again, you see they are obviously trying to do the right thing. They want to arrest these guys because essentially, right or wrong, black or white, they are human trafficking. They are selling a baby on the black market to somebody who can't get them legally.
It's usually to the highest bidder as well, isn't it? Like wealthy people that can't have children, things
yes,
like that.
Yeah. And again, they start to go down a road that isn't great, the two police officers. So whilst these are the good guys and whilst these are the people doing the things they should be doing...
Yeah. It's not straightforward.
The avenue they take is not.
And that's where the most interesting stories happen.
Yes.
The ones that explore the human condition in terms of everything is not straightforward. Yes, we have rules. Yes, we have laws. Yes, this should be this way. Yes, this should be that way. However, it's not that straightforward. And I guess what this film is driving at is, especially when it comes to literal life in this case, is everything is not black and white.
No, and that's it. And I really, really enjoyed this film. I would highly recommend it, regardless of whether if you can see it on a cinema, if it's playing near you, I would recommend that. I don't know the situation with streaming as and when it will be streaming, because this is a film that came out originally at the 2022 Cannes Film Festival, so it has been around for quite some time. So
so as I understand it, Picture House have it, so I'm guessing it will be in all Picture House cinemas, but it is in select cinemas from Friday the 24th. So that's Broker. It's got a 12A certificate out of 5.
A good solid 4.
Ooh.
If it maybe had that little bit of rewatchability, which I will only find out once I watch it a second time, it could possibly be a 5, but a good solid 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5, that's very good.
Really,
very good.
Really enjoyed that one.
Okay, so Broker, that comes out Friday the 24th in select cinemas. Check your local listings, as we're giving that 4 out of 5, as does Joyland with a 15 certificate. That is also coming to select cinemas again. Check your local listings from Friday the 24th of Feb. Not March, John. It's not March yet.
Right, so let's look at what is coming out this week on streaming.
I blame the sniffy bear.
Let's go over to Netflix. They have a couple of films of note coming out this week. They have The Strays and they have We Have a Ghost.
Isn't this David Harbour?
Yes, it is David Harbour.
Right, so it already gets a pass in my book, because anything with David Harbour in it is a big 2 thumbs up from me.
And it's a family film.
Yeah.
So it's not Violent Night.
No, it's not Violent Night. David Harbour and something. I don't know, because there were elements of Violent Night that are very family friendly. You just couldn't let your kid watch any other bits outside of those particular segments of the movie.
So this has a great cast. This has Tig Notaro. It has Jennifer Coolidge, who we all love and adore. David Harbour and Anthony Mackie as well. Quite like I say, this is a family film, and it's about finding a ghost who's called Ernest, as all ghosts should be called Ernest, I feel.
or Horace.
So Ernest is haunting this home.
No, seriously. You don't have a ghost in your house called Horace.
No, sorry.
No? Just me then, carry on.
No, just you. And he's haunting Kevin's house after they move in, and the one thing that they manage to do is catch it on camera.
Well, I'm calling this now, that never happens.
Right, they catch it on camera, and they upload it to social media.
Do the Ghostbusters call them?
Hilarity ensues, their life changes overnight. I'm looking forward to watching this one. So, obviously, you know this because we talk a lot. Every Friday night, me and my family, we have a Friday night movie night, and we get ourselves some sweets and some popcorn and a takeaway and all the usual, and we choose a nice family movie to watch. I'm really looking forward to this Friday where we get to see this.
So Friday, you are getting set for. That's your family movie. That's your focus. You're going with that. That's your family choice for this Friday.
Yep. Really looking forward to that one.
I don't think there is anything at the cinema that's family friendly this week, is there? Really? I wouldn't take your kids to Sniffy Bear. So I don't know. Sniffy Bear sounds like a bedtime story. Maybe Sniffy Bear is suitable for children in a completely different guise, where he's got a bit of a cold, but not a Colombian one. Right?
No.
Yes. We Have a Ghost, Netflix, from Friday. If you've got kids, get your family on that.
Now, I don't know too much about The Strays. I've only very, very briefly seen the trailer, and it does look good. So quite simply, the bio is a black woman's meticulously crafted life of privilege starts to unravel when two strangers show up into a quaint suburban town.
Ooh.
Yes, exactly.
Sounds ominous.
So, from what I gather from the trailer, it has elements of, and I forget the film title now, Don't Worry, Darling, where what she's seeing, is it real? Is it in her mind?
Gotcha.
Yeah? It's one of those ones. So she has a very nice life, and then she starts seeing things. The question is are the things she's seeing real or not?
I heard of it. What's it called?
The Strays.
Do you know what? I'm sure I've heard of this before. Do you know what? I might have even seen it. It sounds very familiar, but then I might have seen this movie before in another guise.
Well, I suppose Don't Worry, Darling,
everything's the same now,
Us, along those type of lines, I would say.
Right, okay. Well, that's Netflix from Friday.
That is Netflix from
Teeing
Friday.
that up for Friday. We'll make a note of these, and then the things that we have seen, we can kind of come back around to next week.
Moving on to Amazon Prime, we have Bandit, which features Josh Duhamel, Alicia Cuthbert, and Mel Gibson. That's coming out on Prime on Friday, I believe, if it's not out already, very, very soon. Looks like it is a standard adventure action movie.
Of course, Mel Gibson's in it.
A perfect Saturday night popcorn film.
Yeah.
So that one's coming out on Amazon Prime. And then something that I am looking forward to, because as much as a lot of his stuff is the same, I do like it. So Kevin Hart.
I know what you're going to talk about. Yeah, go on.
Kevin Hart made a TV series called Die Hard.
No, it's not even that. It was a Quibi series, which is like a little web. So these were like little mini episodes,
like 20 minutes at a time or whatever.
Yeah, they were little kind of. I saw some of them, and they were really, really funny. But they've now made this into a movie.
Yes. So what they've done is they've taken each episode. I suppose they've edited it or done whatever they've done. I'm not entirely sure, but they've basically made it into a movie. So the story of it is Kevin Hart is Kevin Hart. He plays himself in this. He's fed up of being the Rock's sidekick. He's absolutely fed up to the back teeth of selling millions of pounds worth of movies, being the Rock's sidekick, and he wants to be the action hero himself because, god damn it, action heroes can be 5 foot tall.
Well, yeah, look at Tom Cruise.
Yeah, exactly.
What a legend. What an action legend. The action legend.
So Kevin Hart goes to action hero school and he learns how to be an action hero. And who teaches him? None other than John Travolta. It's not John Travolta playing John Travolta, it's John Travolta playing somebody else. But he teaches him, and it's brilliant because basically it's all the jokes are at Kevin Hart. Now, quite simply with this, if you like Kevin Hart and you like Kevin Hart movies, you'll love this.
It's very funny. I saw a few of them, the little mini Quibi bits, and they were hilarious.
This has got an all-star cast, like we were saying about Cocaine Bear. It's got a lot of famous actors who are only in it for 15, 20 minutes at a time, if that. People come and go. So like I already mentioned, John Travolta. It's also got Natalie Emmanuel, Josh Hartnett, and various other people as well. John Reno, who's great in it as well. So lots of people come and go, and they really are very good. Quite simply, if you're a Kevin Hart fan, watch it. You'll love it. If you're not a Kevin Hart fan, maybe don't.
I think it's just a fun, again, from what I've seen of it, I enjoyed all the ones that I saw. It's a very fun, very light, very easy watch. And now you can see them all in one on Prime from this Friday. So yes. Friday 24th, yes. Amazon Prime. There you go.
Right, so we're going to look at a couple of films that we have seen on streaming that is coming out this week.
Yes.
So we're going to talk...
Let's get on. Shall we? Hang on. So I know which is this. The two I think it is. The first one's Devotion, and the second one's 3 Day Millionaire.
Got it.
I've seen both of these.
Well
right,
done.
let's go.
You can actually talk about a film, which is nice on a film podcast.
So we'll start. I tell you what. Let's go with 3 Day Millionaire first.
Okay, so 3 Day Millionaire is a UK film, and if you have seen this film or if you haven't seen this film and you're going to watch this film and you haven't listened to last week's podcast,
do that now.
We actually had the director and the producer of 3 Day Millionaire, Jack Spring and Giles Alderson, on the show, and we spoke to them when it came out, I want to say in December?
No. I think it was after that. I think it was later than that. I'm not sure. Maybe February.
We're in February now.
No, we are in February now. Okay, maybe.
Oh my God! How do you function on day to day?
I'm a time traveller. I live in the future.
So, and also, it's got a fantastic cast featuring the amazing Cole Meany, who we all love, and Robbie G. Both of those play small parts in this film, but both of them are absolutely.
He might
brilliant.
be one of my favourites. But so yeah, the setup is that. It's set in Grimsby, and Grimsby, of course, being very famously a fishing industry town, and that kind of the thing I like about the film, which is what we talked about with the director and the producer, with Jack Spring and Giles Alderson on last week's pod, but obviously this was from way back when it was doing a cinema tour, is that it kind of explores that death of industry or death of a legacy, in that Grimsby's great fishing community is kind of like. In the story, Cole Meany's company, they are developing.
So he owns some of the waterfront land where they obviously use as for the fishing industry. However, he might want to turn it into a business park where you can have some nice sandwich shops and some nice coffee shops and various other bits.
Pointy shoes and brew,
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for? Some nice ales.
Yeah, that type of a thing.
Buy a lumberjack shirt or two.
So basically, he wants to rip the heart out of the Grimsby fishing industry
because he thinks it's dead.
Because he thinks it's dead, and he thinks that he can make far more profit, and the city is going to be far more profitable by inviting these companies to a waterfront location.
So the boys that work for him, which are our protagonists, who are absolutely brilliant,
superb.
They are, of course, fishermen, and they've come from generations of fishermen who were generations of fishermen. So this is what we were talking about with the filmmakers on the last pod about this. It's a fictional comedy, British comedy film, comedy caper, but it is rooted very much in the reality of this is the end of an era. This is something that's kind of based around the death of industry in these towns.
The way of life in England for 100 years.
Functioning. They've had this way of life for generations, and a lot of the lads in the story are, their dads and their dads and their dads did this for generations. So the boys are having absolutely none of it and plot a heist.
And essentially that's what it is. It's essentially a heist film set in England that is just absolutely fantastic. It's so funny. Yeah. There are so many funny instances and characters and everything else like that. It's so good.
What did I call it when I saw it? Ocean's Full Monty.
I can't remember.
I think it was Ocean's Full Monty.
Yeah.
It has a lot in common with those things.
It really does,
unlike other... So there are other films that try and have a lot in common with other films. As we know, this happens most weeks. Unlike that, this film doesn't try to take anything from Full Monty or take anything from Ocean's 11 apart from some inspiration. It doesn't try to be either of those films. It's very much its own thing. It lives and breathes in its own space, and it's incredibly well made. And it does hat tip those things, but in the style of. I won't say it tries to be those things because it doesn't at all. It's completely its own thing. Yeah. But if you like things like Ocean's 11 or you like things like Full Monty, it's like someone just put those two together and set it in a British fishing town. And it works so incredibly well. It's so funny, it's so upbeat. But it reminded me, the reason why it reminded me of Full Monty, because it was a British film that was very, very funny, that was relatable characters, people that could be your neighbour. And the soundtrack and everything else, it all kind of gelled together really nicely like Full Monty does, or things like Brassed Off as well.
So when we spoke to the director and the producer of the film, I actually said that this could be set in any city, in any town throughout England, because we all know people like these guys and we've worked with them, we're related to them, we know them inside out, so this could be set anywhere. I will say now that this is a 15. This is not a film to be watched as a family-friendly Friday night movie.
For sure it's a 15.
Yes, there's lots of colourful language. Very funny colourful language, but lots of colourful language.
You got the cast in front of you there, haven't you? Walker's, I know Cole Meany's in it. We mentioned who you absolutely adore. I think Cole Meany's great, to be honest. There's a great cast.
Yeah, it really is a great cast. I mean, we mentioned Cole Meany and Robbie G because they are two of the bigger names, even though they only have sort of small roles. But James Burrows, who plays the main character Curly in it, so good. And then Grace Long, who plays Queenie. How funny is Queenie's relationship with her mum? Budgie, played by Sam Glenn, and then Michael Kinsey plays Codge. Again, even those nicknames, Budgie, Codge, Curly.
That's what I mean about 90s situational comedy vibes. British.
Yeah, it's British.
It's very British.
Through. If I have this with my wife doesn't like too many over-Americanized films. She likes English stuff. And I have said to her that when this drops on Netflix, we're going to watch it together because she will love this.
So that's 3 Day Millionaire. It's had a cinema run. A successful cinema tour, but it debuts on Netflix from the 28th of February?
No, Saturday, 25th.
25th, okay, so as soon as that. Saturday, 25th of February, 3 Day Millionaire, 15 certificate. Catch it on Netflix. You have to go nowhere.
Right, so let's move on to our last movie, and this is Devotion.
Our last movie on streaming.
Yeah, I should say that.
Not our last movie.
Not last movie ever. No, so this is Devotion, which is coming out on Amazon Prime. Again, had a cinema release towards the end of last year and is now available on Prime.
So for anyone... Yes, it did. It had a cinema release. I'm not sure where it had a cinema release. It definitely had a cinema release in the United States. This has got a magnificent cast.
Oh, yeah. Really, really good cast.
Jonathan Majors, that name's coming up a lot. Jonathan Majors, we talked about him in last week's pod because of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Jonathan Majors we're going to talk about in this week's pod because of Devotion. And Jonathan Majors we're going to talk about in next week's pod because of Creed 3. The man is on fire right now.
It's like he's our best friend.
So Glenn Powell is also in this movie. Glenn Powell's been on Express with us before when he was in the Potato Peel Society. What was it? The Guernsey Potato Peel. So I'll get that. I'll come back to that.
I'm literally looking at you like you've had too much cocaine.
It's a Lily James film. Glenn Powell and Lily James are in this movie.
Oh, right. Okay. I thought you meant that Devotion was a Lily James film.
No. Lily James and Glenn Powell starred in a movie called The Literary Pie something. God, I can't believe this. However, Glenn Powell was in that. I interviewed him for that. He was incredibly brilliant. He was very, very funny. We had an absolute ball, and it's been brilliant to see him in everything since, including Top Gun Maverick last year, which he was amazing in. But here he is in Devotion, which is, as I recall, set during the Korean War.
Yes, it is set during the Korean War. And I also want to mention that it features Thomas Sadowski, who I really, really like as an actor. If you have seen him in anything, one of the favourite things that I have seen him in was the TV series The Newsroom. Did you ever watch that?
I love The Newsroom.
I love The Newsroom as well, yeah.
Favourite of Aaron Sorkin's.
Yes, so he's in that as well. And again, he's very, very good in this. So this is, like I say, it's around the time of the Korean War. It's certainly around the time when, unfortunately, black people were not given the rights that they should have had. And Jonathan Majors plays a black pilot in it's the Air Force, isn't it? I couldn't think what it was called then. In the Air Force.
Correct.
And he is the only black pilot in the Air Force, and therefore a very, very big deal has been made of him. They like to give him as much press as they can. Yeah. There's newspapers there taking pictures, and all he wants to do is be accepted for being a good pilot, and that's all he wants to do. He wants to do his job. He wants to be alongside his co-pilots. He doesn't want any of the attention whatsoever. He just wants to do his job.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to make an example of him because he is the first person to do this.
It's very much a bromance.
Yeah, and the great thing about that, and we were talking
in the nicest and best possible way.
With other movies, it's great to see the arcs of these characters, and it's great to see people grow, because in the start of the film, Glenn Powell is not very welcoming. He's not bad, but he's just not very welcoming. And then as the story progresses, they do have a bromance. They become the best of friends.
They do, and that relationship. And this is based on a real person, by the way.
Yeah, again, it's all based on a real story. Again,
the film was the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. And I remember now Glenn Powell telling me, well done for getting that right first time.
Right.
But yes, Glenn Powell's in that. He's also in and funny 2 pilot movies in the same year from Glenn Powell as well.
We do need to have a word, because I know this is a movie podcast, but you can't just make films up that you like.
No, that's a real film.
You can't just make titles up.
That's a real film.
We've got listeners that know their stuff. Okay.
Then they'll know that film, because that was directed by Mike Newell and stars Lily James. And I had a lovely conversation with Glenn Powell about it. Don't make me dig it out, because
he's
it's
in
like
a film
5 years
called
ago.
The Carrot Crunchers of the Northwest and the
he
Film
was stunning.
Society.
We had a real giggle about it. Pulled me up on the fact that I got it, not pulled me up on it, but congratulated me on the fact that I got it right first time, because I'd rehearsed it. Obviously, I haven't seen it for years, so I'm sat here trying to figure out the Guernsey What's It factory with the biscuits. But anyway, great film. Check that out. It's a lovely film. Go and look at that. Back to Devotion. Glenn Powell's great in it. Jonathan Majors hitting it out of the park again. Chanda Dancy, amazing score from Chanda as well.
Very,
we'll
very
talk
good.
more about that later.
We're going to hear from her very, very soon.
So that's Devotion. It's the true story of pilot Jesse Brown. Amazing true story. I really, really enjoyed it. It stars Jonathan Majors, stars Glenn Powell. It is now streaming on Amazon Prime Video, so you can see it in the UK via Amazon Prime Video if you have a subscription. I do recommend it. I think out of 5, I'd like to lean towards a 4, to be honest.
Not quite for me, but a good, literally a smidge under, a good 3.5 for me.
Yeah, but I think a lot.
I enjoyed it.
Between a 3 and a 4 is absolutely fair.
Yeah,
I'm leaning more towards a 4 because I enjoyed the heroism of it and the camaraderie, and their relationship was incredible. So
I will be completely honest. At the end of it, I had tears streaming down my face. I'm never scared to admit that I am a crier, and I had tears streaming down
that's
my
why
face.
I had to stop for a bit, because he was crying at the idea of that poor bear. That poor bear. Sniffy bear. Right. Okay. Back to so Devotion, Amazon Prime as of now, 3-Day Millionaire on Netflix as of Saturday. Enjoyed both those. Recommend them both very highly. That's your weekend viewing if you haven't got children around you. I would say We Have a Ghost is the go-to if you have the kids with you. So yes, right, that's our streaming DVD. Very quickly, let's race through these.
So racing through these, we have got After Sun, which is available on Mubi. I still haven't seen this. This has just won quite a few awards.
It has, yes. It's just won a BAFTA.
It's supposed to be very, very good. It was on my list of things to watch, and I haven't got there yet. Because there are many, many things to watch.
That's Blu-ray and DVD and digital this week. That's out now.
We have No Man of God, which is out on 101 Films.
That is out via 101 Films, and it is someone I've interviewed. Elijah Wood. There we go. I was like, I kept thinking Frodo. Frodo's in it. I'm so sorry, Elijah.
I'm sure he had. Yeah,
I once had a brilliant chat with Elijah Wood. I was in a cinema in Milton Keynes, which was part of a massive complex where they held a massive Comic-Con, and he turned up with Sean Astin, and Elijah and I ended up having a wonderful, wonderful chat. We had about 10 minutes. We took way more than 10 minutes. He's a lovely, lovely, very excited. He was very excited about a movie he was making at the time with Michael Gondry, which ended up being Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So, yeah, we had a very lovely conversation about it. He's a really, really nice guy, and we had the greatest time. So I'm always looking forward to anything he's in. No Man of God, that reaches Blu-ray and DVD this week.
And then finally, Roald Dahl's Matilda the Musical, the movie. This is a very long title.
Stunning. I'll say that because I know we're kind of pushed for time. So I will just tell you this, that it is everything. Tim Minchin's involved with it. He was involved with the original musical stage show, and then of course now that's been turned into a movie. We all know the story of Matilda, Roald Dahl's classic tale, but this is very well done, incredibly well done. Emma Thompson absolutely smashes this out of the park. So does Lashana Lynch, actually. Really, really solid film, and again, a good one for the whole family. That now makes its digital Blu-ray and DVD debut this week. Get on that. I know a few people, friends of mine, who cannot wait to get it for their children because their children have been to the cinema more than once to see it. So, yeah.
Matilda Wormwood.
Get that this week. That's out now. Roald Dahl's Matilda the Musical. That's available Blu-ray, DVD and digital, courtesy of Sony.
So something else that has just come out as well on digital and Blu-rays, etc., is Pray for the Devil.
Yes, thank you very much, Lionsgate. They sent us over a lovely 4K and Blu-ray copy, so we were both able to watch it, which was cool. What did you think?
The one thing that I think is that I have written Pray for the Devil wrong on our script, and I've spelt it P-R-A-Y, and it's not. It's P-R-E-Y. It's a different type of...
As in pray. Yeah. I noticed that.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
Very clever. Very clever.
Very clever indeed. What did you think?
So I would say that I am quite a big fan of this genre of movie.
I love conjuring and stuff like that.
I love a possession movie. I really liked The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Yeah.
Which was very, very good. I really like that. This is good. It's not great. I think that if you like this type of movie, you will like it.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that if you are just looking for a great horror movie, it maybe goes along a certain formula that is tried and tested, and it doesn't tend to stray too far from that tried and tested.
Yeah.
Very good for what it is, if that makes sense. If you're looking for a possession horror film, you'll enjoy this. This is very good. However, it doesn't do anything outside the box. It doesn't take any great leaps and bounds to the point where, shall I say this or shall I not say this? What happens at the end of the film, literally once...
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
This is the whole point. I'm trying to talk about it without spoiling it.
Be vague.
So once the end of the film happens, and then there is always another 2-minute scene at the very end of the film, once we've realised our conclusion, something happens that I thought was very predictable, that it's almost like it was an afterthought. We need something else. What can we do? Let's do this. And I just thought it was a little bit predictable. I thought the acting was very good throughout. I thought
Colin Salmon's in this movie, isn't he?
There's lots of great actors in this. Lots of great. It's difficult to find bad points about it, other than saying it just sticks to the tried and trusted formula.
It's a very by the numbers spiritual horror.
Yeah, and it's got a nice touch. The twist, which I'm obviously not going to talk about. I can see you burning holes into the back of my skull right now.
Don't you do it?
It's a nice little twist. It's not a usual suspect's jaw on the floor twist, but it's a nice little twist, and you go, oh yeah, I kind of thought that might happen.
But we talk about these movies all the time. These are good by the numbers. Get a beer, get a pizza, let's go.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
None
it's
at
just,
all.
I liked Smile a lot more than what you did.
Smile's a very good film.
Smile's a very good film, but I really liked it, and you just liked it a bit.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, but if you're expecting a Smile, this isn't it.
No, but if you are in the realm of The Conjuring and those are your Exorcism of Emily Rose, if that's your wheelhouse, this is your movie for the weekend.
100%.
For sure.
Sister Anne will be accompanying us on our rounds for the rest of the term. Now pay close attention. The nuances of our craft require active learning to truly understand. So, Group 1, let's descend into the mouth of hell, shall we?
That's Pray for the Devil. It is courtesy of Lionsgate. Thank you for the disc. That's 4K, Blu-ray, DVD and digital. That is out now. It's been out a couple of weeks, but do pick that up.
Now, there is a reissue or a re-release, whatever you want to say it, on 4K.
Yeah, a 4K issue of, I guess it's an anniversary. I don't know. Did that come out in 82? Not sure.
Probably,
but I will.
Probably around there, I would say.
James Woods in Videodrome, which was an absolute game changer at the time from director David Cronenberg.
Yeah.
This was a very, very... horror fans will kind of hold this, I guess. I mean, horror fans I've spoken to certainly put this up on a pedestal because it is a classic. It is now available for the first time in 4K, and I understand there's some nice collector's box sets floating around.
So I'm trying to think about how old I am. I don't think I've seen this film in 20 years. When I was growing up, when I was in my teens, and I have to thank Channel 4 for this. Channel 4 went on a spate of showing these type of films at 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever.
Yes, and that was a show hosted by a certain filmmaker. I know what you mean because I used to stay up and watch those too.
They went through a spate of showing these, and I think it was also David Cronenberg's Rabid and various shock horror films that, these type of things. And I really had a stage in I suppose I would have been about 16, 17, something like that, really getting into these types of films. And Videodrome was one of them. And yeah, amazing.
That's how I discovered Aliens for the first time. It was on ITV in like 11 o'clock at night. And it was a strange one because we had it. I think we actually possessed it on video, but I was kind of afraid of it. Because I'd never seen Alien. I'm one of those weird people that saw Aliens and then went back and watched Alien because I didn't know.
I don't think you're one of those weird people. I just think that's the age we are. The sequels came out when we were going to see films, and then you discover it and you go back and
I saw
see
a very
the original.
ITV late at night, a very cut version of Aliens with the Australian dubs. That was again, whole other podcast. But anyway, so I then went back and watched the director's cut and then went back and watched Alien and then became a huge fan of that genre. But yes, the late night films, there's a lot to be discussed. I don't really think that's a thing anymore though, is it?
I think that's changed very much with streaming and everything else.
Yeah,
I don't think that exists anymore.
But Videodrome is disturbing, as it should be, because it's Cronenberg and
Yes.
he's a master as his son, who has obviously got that film coming up we talked about earlier. But yeah, Videodrome has made its 4K debut. You can get it as of now. It's also digital Blu-ray DVD, but the 4K box sets as well that are floating around are pretty lovely. So the film's not lovely by any measure, but if you're a collector, the box set indeed is a thing to behold, especially if you love body horror. So yeah.
But it's not a lovely it's not a lovely film.
No,
we want to
any
make
measure.
that absolutely clear. Videodrome is not a lovely film. It just comes in a lovely package if you love the film.
Yeah, it stars James Wood, who's now no longer a lovely person either. But anyway, we'll move on.
Yes, let's move on, please.
Big interview time.
It is big interview. I'll let you introduce this one, sir.
Yes, a while back when, over Christmas actually, we were exploring the release of the Whitney Houston movie, I Want to Dance with Somebody. Dance, for those of you that are pulling me up on my pronunciation.
Thank you very much.
Of dance.
Appreciate that.
That we discussed her music. She's a brilliant, talented, gifted, brilliant, amazing composer, and she crafted some really lovely music for Whitney. But one of the things that was happening around that time was Devotion was also doing the rounds, and she was getting incredible praise for a most magical score for the film Devotion, which of course we have just rated very highly. And here is what the composer of both those films had to say about Devotion. And time now to give a huge warm welcome to this week's very special guest. The magnificent Chanda Dancy is on the show. Chanda, thanks so much for joining me. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Let's turn our focus now to your two most recent scores. The recently released and a phenomenal score, by the way, for war epic Devotion and your upcoming work on Whitney Houston biopic I Want to Dance with Somebody, both for Sony Pictures, working with some really talented filmmakers as well, and both based on true stories and very real people that are sadly no longer with us. We'll start with Devotion. For those listening at home for the first time that maybe would hear about the movie now for the very first time, tell us very briefly about the film and that incredible true story within.
So this is the true story of Ensign Jesse Brown and Lieutenant Thomas Hudner. They were naval aviators with the United States Navy during the Korean War. They were I think to this day, still the most decorated naval airmen in the United States naval history. And Ensign Jesse Brown was Black. and Lieutenant Hudner was white. And this was in the 1950s. So, the 1950s in the United States was a very turbulent time in which there was institutionalized separation of people based upon race. And these two young men became the best of friends, true friends, and the best wingmen. And this tells the story of their friendship, how it developed, and how they sacrificed for each other during the Korean War. And without giving too much away, it's a very, very, very powerful story. And for anyone who's interested in watching, please do. Like, you will be touched and encouraged, to be a better person, a better friend. So yeah, that's the gist of it. It's a really great film, and I'm amazed and honored to be the composer for it.
How did you get involved with it? What was it about the film that really drew you to wanting to engage in the project, and how did it come your way?
Well, let's start with how it came my way. It was just luck. So I was hired onto a TV project called The Defeated. It's currently on Netflix, another war genre show. And I started working with an agent, a composer agent, when I was hired for The Defeated. And so that agent happened to know all of the producers at Black Label Media, because he was the agent for the late great Johan Johansson. And so he knew all of Black Label Media from Sicario, of course. And they were looking for, a fresh voice, essentially. And so my agent was like, "Hey, Chanda, just, put your hat in the ring and we'll see how it goes." So I just sent over a demo of other scores that I worked on, including some cues from the show that I was currently working on, The Defeated, and just kind of forgot about it, because I was working on The Defeated, which was hours and hours and hours of music. And a couple of weeks later, my agent, lets me know, "Hey, they want to have a meeting with you. JD, the director, wants to meet you. Here's the script. Read the script and get ready for the meeting." So I read the script, and I've said this a million times, but it's literally what happened. I ugly cried. I was I was touched. I was devastated. It was everything. Everything was in that script. All of the highs, all of the lows. And I was amazed that it was a true story. Amazed. So I thought, oh, wow, I really have to do this. So I meet JD Dillard via Zoom, because of course, that's what we do these days. and so, yeah, we meet and immediately just hit it off. I mean, we were in tears together on Zoom, just talking about the story and talking about our motivations in life and what's important to us. And yeah, and I was hired based upon that meeting. And again, the rest is history, kind of thing. So
tell us about the music itself within the film and how you developed it and your process for writing and creating the music for the film.
Yeah, so like I said, like, it definitely started with my whole sing into my iPhone process. And I think the very first theme that came to me was what JD liked to call the Devotion theme. He dubbed it the Devotion theme, and it's the music that you hear in the track called "Measure of a Man," and that's the scene where Thomas purposefully crashes his plane to save Jesse, and that was actually the first cue that was sung into my iPhone. and then going from there, it was creating each character theme just using piano and sharing those themes with JD while they were shooting. And then, you know, I had the privilege of being able to watch all the dailies as they're coming down the pipeline while they're shooting, and just getting more and more ideas. And I believe the very first cue that was fully fleshed out as a demo for JD was actually the big battle sequence. That's the cue that's called Sortie. That was the first time that, you know, JD and I were experimenting in orchestral sound effects is what I wanted to do. I wanted the orchestra to sound like airplanes rising and diving, and the sound of their propellers and things like that. And that's when we started thinking about, you know, we want this score to be different, a different type of war-inspired score. We wanted it to be classic Hollywood style with sweeping themes, grand orchestra. But we also, like I said, wanted orchestral sound effects, and we also wanted synthesizers and more modern sensibilities combined within the orchestra. And so, you know, there was just a lot of back and forth and sharing ideas and sharing sounds between, you know, JD and I. And by the time the director's cut was ready and they were ready to screen it for the producers, even before the previews, the score was done. Version 1 of the score was done. And we just went from there, just tailoring it as picture changed. And that's pretty much how it all got done. It was just a very organic and easy process, relatively easy process. So.
And a community feel to that, talking about you being part of that family and part of that process. From the very beginning, it seems like I guess there wasn't any temp or anything like that. Was it all just you and you?
Yeah. There was no temporary music. We kind of didn't even have an official spotting session before version 1 of the score was done. Like our spotting session was done a little bit after the score was already done. And I guess it was more like just notes on version 1 of the score and then going from there. But it was, yeah, you just don't have opportunities like that. At least I haven't, where you're on this grand giant film and you're allowed to be as free and creative as you want to be.
When you're writing music for films like this, actually, especially ones that, I was just thinking about this now, that are based on real life figures and incredible legacies, do you feel a sense of pressure when you come into these projects that you are now essentially becoming part of the fabric of their history in terms of how their stories are told? Is there a sense of nervousness coming to work on these projects? And if so, how do you as an artist move past and overcome that and get focused on the task at hand?
So I definitely felt a little bit more of the nervousness with Whitney's story, because sadly, you know, Jesse's story is not as well known, so there aren't all of these expectations. But there's a lot of expectations with Whitney Houston and a lot of opinions. And so, you know, both projects are absolutely important to get right. Yes. And so for me, I felt like I was thinking more about the people who remain, their family and their friends who are still here and who have to remember this, you know, and who are still affected by the lives of their loved ones, especially Whitney, you know, so recent. And there's still so many people that are around that were in her circle. So I think about them. You know, how would they feel? you want to treat them with respect as well as Whitney and as well as Jesse. But yeah, for I Want to Dance with Somebody, it was about just getting the emotion right. So for the score, there was a lot of, you know, the score had to be the glue that exists in between Whitney's iconic songs. So first of all, there's a lot of pressure in making sure that the score doesn't suck compared to, you know, the hits of the century. But also, you know, making sure that the score is purposeful. Like, why is it there and what is it trying to say? Yeah. And so it was just important that I latched on to the feeling of how was Whitney feeling and how were the people around her feeling and how did they get through it? And just being purposeful about when music came in. Again, there are definitely themes. And for I Want to Dance with Somebody, the themes are a little bit different. It's not so much character themes. It's well, I guess technically it is character themes. So one of the main themes, we dubbed it, and this is Casey Lemon's genius director. Casey and I first started talking about the score very early on. And the main theme is called the Genius theme. And the Genius theme represents Whitney's onstage presence, the glittering and glamour of just her amazing pop star persona that, you know, us as fans are so familiar with. And that's grand and it's sweeping. Just imagine Whitney coming down a cascading staircase with dripping in diamonds and and silks and you know, that sense of beauty and grandeur is the Genius theme. And then the other theme, we call it the waltz theme. The waltz theme is kind of a complicated waltz melody, and it represents Whitney's private life, things that we as fans were not really privy to. And it's beautiful yet complicated. So those two themes take a journey throughout the movie, along with Whitney's development and her rise and her fall. And when the music comes in, it's addressing those things very purposefully, so as not to just be, you know, wallflower music. It has something to say. And so I feel like, you know, being purposeful on things like that, it helps me to not feel so nervous, you know, when you're writing for just icons of history. Being purposeful and having something to say and being respectful in what I say, I feel like has carried me through. So
during the process of writing music for Whitney's story and the development of the film itself, did you learn more yourself about Whitney's legacy and some things that
absolutely yes,
yeah.
You know, I remember when she passed, but there was so much of what went on in her life that I didn't pay attention to because I really wasn't into the gossip or the circus of it. So I kind of like stayed away from anything. And, you know, watching the film, I was like, oh, wow, I had no idea that she went through that. No idea. And it made me respect her more, love her more. It's like I want to I want to hug her, you know, like there's so much empathy that you feel when you watch this film. So yeah.
It's going to make me cry, isn't it? Come on, let's be honest.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and of course, on a lighter note, actually, I have to ask this, since we are talking about one of the world's most brilliant artists, what is your favourite Whitney song? I have to ask.
The Greatest Love of All.
That's a great choice.
Yes.
I can't answer that, so that's why I asked you. Maybe you'd have an idea.
Yeah, that's my top for me.
And as someone that's been deeply involved with the film, what do you hope people will take away? And again, I guess we kind of touched on this in what we've just said, really. But in summary, what do you hope people take away from seeing I Want to Dance with Somebody when it arrives in cinemas and theatres this weekend, Chanda?
I hope that by the end of the movie, they're going to go into their cars and they're just going to listen to Whitney songs all the way home, blasting it with the windows down. just rekindling that spark and that love for her, and just going down nostalgia memory lane again, listening to her great hits, her great songs. And I hope they also have the audience. I hope the audience has more empathy, more love, more respect for everyone involved in Whitney's circle, including some people that people haven't had a high opinion of. We're all human. And I hope that there's more respect that people get when they come out of this film.
I'm really looking forward to the film. It's going to be a highlight for me for sure. I was a huge fan of Whitney Houston, so I'm always invested, very excited for this. And just finally, actually, before we go, what's 2023 looking like for you? I know you also have your band and your studio too, as well as being a composer. So all things considered and everything going on, you're a mom as well. How does 2023 look so far for you?
Well, so far I've got two great TV projects that I'm not at liberty to talk about, but they are grand. And I am looking forward to sharing more character themes that I sang into my iPhone with everyone.
So that's it for now. Everybody just go check out Devotion. Check out I Want to Dance with Somebody. Whatever comes next, we can't talk about that right now, but I do hope that you will come back and we'll talk about those top secret things in 2023. I'd love that so much. Chanda, thank you so much. Chanda, it's been brilliant, absolutely brilliant talking to you. Congratulations on another brilliant score, another two brilliant scores. All the very, very best for 2023. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Marvellous composer talking to me just before Christmas about Devotion and Whitney. I Want to Dance with Somebody. I have to pause before I say that now to make sure I say it properly. You can, of course, see Whitney's still playing in cinemas, by the way. If you're local to us here in Portsmouth, a big hello to our friends at the View Cinema in Gunwolf Keys. But of course, myview.com is the place to go if you want to get tickets for Whitney. Devotion is on Amazon Prime, and the soundtrack to Devotion is available now if you want to know more about any of those things. Thank you to Chanda as well for a lovely interview.
Right, it is our time for our Tip Top 5. If you are a new listener to the pod, let me very quickly explain what our Tip Top 5 is. We have taken inspiration from the film High Fidelity, where they settle all arguments with their top 5 of something. So each week we will pick something. Now, the last couple of weeks it has been an actor, but it could be a genre, it could be films of 1998, it could be anything.
Yeah.
So we will pick something and then we will name our top 5 of that something. And what we are going to do this week is last week's GOAT of the week was Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
And we thought there was an absolutely brilliant idea for our tip top 5. So we are going to talk about our tip top 5 for Brendan Fraser.
Tip top 5 Brendan Fraser movies. Okay, what's your tip top 5, Paul?
Are we going to go 5, 5, 4, 4, or am I going to go right the way through?
Go right the way through, because again, you have a strongly constructed top 5 and I have just 5 films that I really like in no particular order. I kind of like that dynamic. So you go with your stringently, very well researched top 5 that you spent loads of time on and make me look silly because I'm an idiot that didn't.
Right, so I'm going to go in with No Sudden Moves at number 5.
Ooh.
Yeah, which came out a couple of years ago. I have a feeling it came out during the pandemic. It's a Steven Soderbergh film.
Yes.
Which was massively, massively underrated. I really enjoyed it and I thought it was really, really good. And Brendan Fraser was superb in it. And I just felt that it went completely under the radar, which really surprised me. However, moving on to number 4, a film that didn't go under the radar at all is Bedazzled.
Oh, I love Bedazzled.
I love Bedazzled as well. And the reason, now Brendan Fraser is superb in it. The reason why I've got it at number 4 and not higher is because I feel that the film is more about Liz Hurley than it is Brendan Fraser.
And I always get it confused with Bewitched. I always go Bewitched and everyone goes, no, that movie's terrible.
Yeah, no, Bedazzled.
Bedazzled, great fun.
But he is fantastic in it with all of the different wishes and the different costumes and the different characters that he plays in it. The basketball player with the teeny weeny weenie.
Fun. It's so fun.
It's just brilliant.
So much fun.
It is so fun.
He makes fun films. I mean, The Whale aside, he makes really, really fun films.
Number 3, I'm probably going to get lynched for this because I'm coming out of the movie world and I'm going into the TV world. And my number 3...
What?
Yes, I know. And I was waiting for this. So
are you going to say 2 words that I thought about and then didn't include because it was television?
I've no idea. Probably not, actually. But so my number 3 is Scrubs.
Oh!
Where
you've surprised me, Paul Marsh.
So he played Ben, which was Dr. Cox's brother. And he was only in 3 episodes and he passed away in that. But...
Spoilers.
Spoilers for a 20-year-old TV show, yeah. But he's fantastic in it. And the episode where Ben has passed away and Dr. Cox hasn't accepted it. So all the time it's a bit like Sixth Sense, really. All the time he's seeing him throughout the episode, he thinks he's alive. And then at the very end of it, Zach Braff says, "Where do you think we are?" And they're at Ben's funeral.
Yeah, beautifully done.
Yeah, and
really
I just
powerful. It was really powerful. I remember that
for a laugh-a-minute TV show. It really was. Yeah. So that's my number 3.
I thought you were going to say Doom Patrol when you were talking about television, but okay, no. But Scott, that was a good shout because I'd forgotten about that until you reminded me, and I was like, oh, that's beautiful. I remember that now. Yeah,
very good. Number 2, so there is the 2 big films left, so I guess it is what order have I...
It's going to be one of those 2, isn't it?
So number 2, now I should say that I haven't put The Whale in my top 5 because I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, okay.
It is on my list to see, I haven't seen it yet. So number 2 is George of the Jungle, which again, his comedy style is just fantastic. And he's so good in that, alongside Leslie... What's her name? She's in all the Adam Sandler films. She's brilliant. She's in Virgin.
She's Judd Apatow's wife, isn't she?
Yeah, and I can't think of her name. She's fantastic. Oh, that's going to bug me.
Go on.
Should I Google it?
Off you go.
Yeah.
Or other search engines are available.
Yeah.
Because now you're going, I can't remember. Now I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's infectious, isn't it? Having a brain fart is infectious. Now I can't do it. It's like when you yawn and someone else yawns.
We've got absolutely no signal in this studio. Fantastic. I have no idea. If any of this is...
She's an incredible comedic actress. I know that much. She was in This Is 40 with Paul Rudd as well, wasn't she?
I have no idea. There we go. Leslie Mann.
Leslie Mann. Thank
Leslie
you
Mann.
much.
Yeah,
Leslie Mann.
Fantastic in that. But it's a brilliant film, which obviously means that my number 1 is The Mummy.
Hey,
which he is just superb in. The Mummy is a perfect 90s film.
Yeah, it is, but it's also
perfect.
Why it works. So just very quickly to latch onto what you were saying, as before, I just threw 5 at the wall and went, these are my favourites. And they're very similar. Very similar. Encino Man or California Man, depending on what country you live in, was probably, I think, was that the earliest instant we saw Brendan Fraser?
Well, I was going to say, the one that didn't quite make my top 5, but I almost put it in my top 5 was Airheads.
Oh, that's a good choice. But Encino Man / California Man, that was in there because I kind of think that gave rise to things like George of the Jungle.
Yes. Yeah.
I think one may not exist without the other. But George of the Jungle, so Bedazzled's on that list. Encino Man's on that list. George of the Jungle is very high on that, incredibly high on that list. I think The Whale should be very high on that list. Now, here's the thing. This is where it gets difficult. Choosing the number 1 is really hard because The Whale, I think, is probably his most prolific, most profound performance. And I think he's given everything in that film, and deservedly so for all the awards he's getting. He's deserving the critical praise he's getting because he really is giving his all in that movie. This is a personal top 5 though, and for me The Mummy is number 1 because it is everything to everyone. It's the perfect action adventure film. It's the perfect 90s film, as you highlighted. It was a really great way of bringing the Indiana Jones style into the 90s. It's got a lot in common with Indiana Jones, and that's the 80s. But even further back, it's got a lot in common with, these Saturday afternoon serial kind of adventure stories of the 40s. Even it harks all the way back to that, and of course, it's also all hinged around upon the classic Universal monsters, and Universal monster being the Mummy, Arnold Vosloo as the Mummy. Wow, and Rachel Weisz is in there, John Hannah's in there. We talked about this last week. Brilliant. Great ensemble cast, brilliant. It's got its tongue firmly in its cheek. The action is just, and Stephen Sommers directed that, I think.
I'm trying to think who the comedian is. Omid Jalili.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So even the ensemble's great. Even the characters that aren't around on screen as much, they have incredible value in the movie. It's a good thigh-slapping adventure romp, cowboy adventure romp. It's so much fun. And again, we go back to CGI, and CGI was kind of coming along leaps and bounds at the time. Remember, this is around the time of The Matrix and movies like that. And yet, despite that, what it does lack slightly in CGI, because it is CGI heavy, it makes up for in comic timing and characters, in and like I say, that yee-haw adventure, proper Saturday movie.
No, me and my wife, it's one of our favourite films. We love it, and I would say we watch it couple of times a year at least.
But he makes it. He's the centre of that universe.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He's so fun
and
in
his duel with Benny throughout the whole film.
Yeah, it makes it so enjoyable and so fun that you can forgive any of its faults. So for me, The Mummy. So we've agreed. We just agreed.
Yes. We've actually both agreed that our number one is The Mummy.
The Mummy, number one Brendan Fraser movie. That's our tip top 5. Now we do have an idea on our tip top 5 for next week, but if you have a favourite Brendan Fraser movie that we haven't included, or want to offer your thoughts on your favourite Brendan Fraser movie and why, let us know at Need a Bigger Pod
on all the different socials.
Or if you have a suggestion for Tip Top 5, say, hey lads, how about doing this Tip Top 5?
Why don't you do a Mark Hamill Tip Top 5?
Are they all Star Wars? Star Wars and Joker. Anyway,
you did the same thing as me. You paused to see if you could think of anything else.
Star Wars and Joker.
Yeah.
He is the voice of the Joker.
Yeah.
And he's Luke Skywalker. So that 5's being entirely. But I could do that right now. Batman: Master of the Phantasm, Star Wars: A New Hope, Star Wars: Empire Strikes Back. No,
right. You've killed us. We won't be doing Mark Hamill next week.
If you have a tip top 5. Please do let us know if you want us to do your tip top 5. Send us your tip top 5. We'll include it alongside our tip top 5 of your choice. So at Need a Bigger Pod on socials. Let us know.
Right, let's move on to this week's GOAT of the week. And if you don't know what a goat is, we have not literally got a tiny little animal with hooves in our studio.
It's not a very nice way to talk about any of our goats of the week either, to be fair.
The goat means the greatest of all time. So we like to finish our pod with something really, really positive, and we like to take somebody who is maybe recognised for what they do on screen, but also what they do off screen.
No, you chose this week's.
I just think that this week's is Cate Blanchett.
Yeah.
And obviously she recently won the BAFTA for Best Actress for Tar.
She did.
And I myself said that whilst I am not a big fan of that film, she is phenomenal.
Powerhouse in that film.
And when you saw her speech for when she won that, and she broke down for the fact that she had been away from her family for so long, and all of the things she had to learn for this film Tar. She had to not only learn how to compose, and be a, what's the word I'm looking for? A stick wavy person.
A conductor.
Conductor, that's the word I was looking for. Talk about how to...
I'm so glad I got that right. There's an entire audience on another show that I do going, you get this right, John. You get this right.
And that's why I'm not on Scoreheads, because I call them stick wavy people.
But also Sean's laughing. But also she
learned German.
She's an incredibly beautiful person inside and out, which means she also had to learn how to be a toxic narcissist, which is essentially what Tar becomes in the movie.
You can see how much her family meant to her.
Yeah, this is the movie about the fall of a legend, when it turns out that actually when it all comes out, she's not very likeable. She's conflicted by guilt and by grief, but she's not a very likeable person, and actually she's quite toxic when you realise it.
Whereas Cate Blanchett is
completely the opposite.
Yeah.
But she's good. She's a great character actor. She owns everything she's in. I mean, I really like Ocean's 8 because of Cate Blanchett.
Okay.
And, you know, movies like obviously Lord of the Rings and other stuff. She's great as the villain in Thor as well. She plays Thor's sister in that. Stunning. But all the way throughout, through the last, 20 years, she's been incredible. And again, not just because of her incredible body of work, but because of, I think, who she is as a person.
So, that's pretty much it.
That is pretty much it.
Pretty much it. Thank you so much for listening to another week of our ramblings on We're Gonna Need a Bigger Pod. We invite you to tell us what you think, both good and bad. We're not those people that only needs to hear positive comments. We want to hear the negative. If you've got something you feel we need to change, if you something that you don't like in the pod, we want to hear your constructive criticism.
Was it Arnie that said whenever he won a competition and he had all these people giving him positive praise and trophies and awards, I think it was Arnie that said he would go up to the judging panel or whoever and say, don't tell me what I got right, tell me what I got wrong, because that's how I grow. So by all means, if we're getting it right, great, by all means, share your thoughts with us. But if we're getting it wrong, tell us about that too. We want to know what you want to hear more of, what you want to hear less of. I just want to give a big shout to Ruben Shaw, who's our friend from That There Over There podcast, the Ruby Tuesday. He's got a great podcast over there. Go and check them out, the Ruby Tuesday. He sent us a lovely feedback and just said that he thought the first episode was great, wished us luck, wished us the best, congratulations, but also that his favourite things were our guest interviews and our tip top 5.
Oh, well, that's...
So thank you very much to Ruby.
Appreciate that very, very much.
Seek him out, the Ruby Tuesday podcast. He's got lots going on there, particularly on his YouTube channel, so go find him on his YouTube, the Ruby Tuesday. Thank you very much. If you do have any comments, though, by all means, send them our way. We would be happy to read them. We'd be even happy to read them out at Need a Bigger Pod on socials. Give us your thoughts.
And also don't forget, individually, we are at Paul Swampy Marsh and at John Brown TV on all social media as well.
Yeah.
We will be back next week. Before we say goodbye, would you like to say thank yous to anybody? Because you do like a list of thank yous.
Yes, I want to say thank you very much to everybody that got involved with this week's. Thank you again to Picture House. Thank you again to Studio Soho, to DDA, to our friends at the View Cinema in Gunwharf Keys, and also to Universal and Studio Canal, and I'm just remembering them all now, and Sony, Amazon Prime, Netflix, and yeah, I think that's everyone. Did I cover everyone? Lionsgate, thank you to Lionsgate.
Thank you
guys
to
are amazing.
Everybody who has helped us help you with this week's podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And a big shout out goes to, of course, our friends at the View Cinemas. They are incredible in making sure that we can basically live there to pick up anything we might have missed outside of screenings. So thank you very much to them. Go and get yourself a very comfortable recliner seat at any one of their amazing cinemas in the UK. I think are they all reclined? I don't know. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But seek yours out. myview.com for latest film times and listings. And again, once more, thank you to our friends at Express FM, which is where you'll find Paul Marsh weekdays from 10 a.m. Paul is on there. I'm also on the occasional Sunday at 6 p.m. hosting the Composer series. I am also alongside Paul, the film correspondent for the station. They're great. If you live in the local area of Portsmouth, they're on 93.7 FM across Portsmouth, South East Hampshire, on DAB as well, Express FM and expressfm.com, or ask your smart speaker to play Express FM. If you are local, by all means, get involved. There's lots of great music, lots of great chat, lots of great presenters and guests. So thank you to Express FM and their wonderful studios for being our hosts.
So we'll be back next week, and just remember to follow us online, like, subscribe and share, and we will be back next week.
If you loved it, share it. If you hate it, share it. At Need a Bigger Pod. Follow us on socials, and thank you very, very much. We'll be back next week with our deep thoughts on Sniffy Bear. We'll also be talking about Creed 3 as well, and we might have a few celebrity guests for you. We'll see you next week.
That was more like Chewy than a cocaine bear.
I'm going to take Paul to the hospital.
Too much sniffy.
Enjoy the rest of your day.